Okay, so we've got this Wikipedia article about Hardeep Singh Nijjar, and honestly, it's a wild ride. I mean, you've got this guy, becomes a community leader here in Canada, but then boom, he's somehow at the center of this huge diplomatic crisis between Canada and India.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, Ninejar's story, it really gets into all the, tangled knots of the Sikh separatist movement and how it connects back to India.
Definitely not a simple story.
Not at all. It's really about a guy who ends up right in the middle of this conflict, way bigger than him.
It's kind of crazy how his life started too, right? Growing up in India, he sees the Punjab insurgency firsthand.
Yeah, and his family even sheltered militants during that time, which, I mean, talk about intense. Those kinds of experiences, they stick with you, you
Well,
know?
absolutely.
And I think that's key to understanding why he decided to leave India and try to find refuge in Canada in the mid-90s.
Like a whole dramatic escape, almost. Arriving with a fake passport, even trying to pull off a marriage of convenience, which I guess didn't really pan out the way he hoped because,
His refugee claim was denied, right?
right, initially. But then, after more legal battles and everything, he finally gets citizenship in 2007.
Wow.
Can you imagine being in that position? Trying to build a life from scratch, dealing with all that scrutiny. It's kind of amazing he managed to make a life for himself,
Yeah.
became a plumber, had a family, even became president of that Gurdwara in Surrey, British Columbia.
You'd think that would be it, right? Like he built a new life, end of story.
Right.
But that's when all these accusations started coming out.
India comes in with these serious allegations, saying he's deeply involved with the Khalistan Tiger Force.
That's a banned terrorist organization. We're talking serious stuff.
Totally. And then, bam, he's slapped with those Interpol red notices in 2014 and 2016. Like, that's a huge deal.
Yeah, it's not nothing. I mean, it was a big blow to his reputation, for sure. And it definitely raised questions about what he was really up to.
Right. But here's the thing. It's not as black and white as it seems.
You said it. This is where it gets messy. You've got Sikh organizations saying, no, this guy's a human rights activist. And then the Indian government's like, nope, dangerous terrorist.
It's two totally different stories about the same dude.
Exactly. And it makes it hard to figure out what to believe, you know?
Totally. Like, the article mentions those accusations of Nijjar being involved with bombings and even running a terrorist training camp in Canada.
Which, if true, are super serious.
Sure. But India hasn't really shown any solid proof to back those claims up.
Right.
Plus, some Canadian security experts weren't totally convinced, and there are even those concerns about some of those confessions they were using as evidence, like maybe they were coerced or something.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
And then you've got Nijjar himself, straight up denying everything, saying he's just advocating for Khalistan to separate peacefully, that's all.
It's just a whole bunch of accusations flying back and forth, denials, you name it. No clear picture at all.
Which makes what happens next even crazier. So then, June 2023, Nijjar gets assassinated.
Shot right in the parking lot of his Gurdwara.
Yeah, and it wasn't just some random act of violence either.
It was a planned hit, multiple gunmen, a getaway car, the whole thing.
Like something straight out of a movie, except it really happened.
It's a scary thought, you know? It shows just how far people are willing to go in these kinds of conflicts. And what makes it even more chilling is that Canadian intelligence, they actually warned Nijjar that someone might try to kill him.
They knew he was in danger.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this wasn't just a local news story.
Not even close.
This thing blew up into a huge international incident.
Yeah, it really shook things up on the world stage.
So, 3 months later, out of the blue, Justin Trudeau drops this bombshell.
He comes right out and accuses the Indian government of being involved in Nijjar's assassination.
Based on, like, what he called credible intelligence.
And that's a serious statement to make. You don't just throw around accusations like that without some serious backup.
Right. And the reaction from India was immediate.
Oh, it was huge. Instant diplomatic fallout. Canada's expelling Indian diplomats. India turns around and does the same thing right back.
Trade talks put on hold, travel advisories issued, the whole 9 yards.
Total diplomatic showdown.
And then you've got the Five Eyes, right?
Yeah.
Canada's saying they've got these communications intercepts of Indian officials plus intelligence from their Five Eyes allies, but they haven't actually shown any of it publicly.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I get it. They've got to protect their sources and all that.
Yeah, you don't want to reveal your methods, especially in a case this sensitive.
Right, but it also feels like they're kind of saying, just trust us on this one.
It's a tough spot to be in. Do you reveal everything and potentially compromise your intelligence gathering, or do you hold back and risk looking like you're not being totally transparent?
Exactly. So what about the other Five Eyes countries? What was their take on all this?
They were pretty careful, mostly just urging India to cooperate with the investigation.
No outright condemnation.
Not really. It's a delicate situation. You've got these long-standing alliances, strategic partnerships, all that to consider.
So they're playing it safe.
Pretty much.
Okay, so fast forward to May 2024, things start moving again with the investigation. 3 Indian nationals get arrested right here in Canada.
Charged with Nijjar's murder.
Big development. But the investigation's still going, right?
Oh, yeah. It's far from over. They're still trying to figure out if these guys were working on their own or if they had any connections to the Indian government.
Because if they were connected to the Indian government...
That changes everything.
Totally. It would basically confirm what Trudeau's been saying all along.
That this was a state-sanctioned hit, an assassination ordered by the Indian government on Canadian soil.
I mean, think about the implications of that.
It would be huge. We're talking about a whole other level of international incident. It would raise massive questions about how countries are supposed to deal with each other, about respecting borders, about international law, the works.
Yeah, try to imagine the fear and uncertainty that's got to be going on in the Sikh diaspora, especially those who support an independent Khalistan. This whole assassination, this put a huge spotlight on a movement that, for many, it's all about self-determination, about religious freedom.
Right.
But for others, it represents a threat to India's national unity. It's complicated.
It is, for sure. It's a complex issue, with really deep historical and cultural roots.
Exactly. And it seems like this whole case has only made those divisions even deeper.
Yeah.
The article mentions some clashes between Sikh and Hindu groups. And then there was that whole thing where the Sikh activist was calling for Hindus to leave Canada.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a really scary kind of rhetoric.
Absolutely. It just shows how quickly things can escalate, how easy it is for tensions to boil over.
Definitely. And it reminds us that even in a place like Canada, known for being multicultural, these deep divisions, they can still exist.
No doubt about it.
So what now? The investigation's still ongoing. What's the biggest question for you going forward?
Honestly, I just wonder if Canada will ever make public the evidence they say they have.
Yeah.
They're saying they've got these communications intercepts, intelligence reports, stuff that directly ties the Indian government to Nijjar's assassination, but they've kept it all under wraps.
And that's a big if. It's kind of a huge deal. Why not just show the world what you've got?
It's a question, right? Are they worried about protecting their sources? Or is it about the diplomatic fallout? Or maybe there's something else, something that complicates the whole narrative even more.
It's super interesting,
Yeah.
Because this whole case, it feels like one of those mysteries where it's impossible to know for sure what's going on. It's a tangled mess of geopolitics, security concerns, human rights, the whole mix.
It really is.
And as we navigate this new era of global tensions, Nijjar's assassination, it really stands out as a reminder of the challenges we face. Trying to find that balance between security, diplomacy, and the pursuit of justice,
Right. You have to find a way to get things done, but you got to do it the right way.
Totally. And sometimes the most important truths, they're the ones that are the hardest to uncover.
That's for sure.
So on that note, let's leave you with this final thought. Nijjar's assassination has brought the Khalistan movement back into the spotlight. But the question is, how will it impact its future? Will it push supporters towards more radical action, or will it lead to a renewed effort for a peaceful solution? That's a question we're still asking ourselves, and it's one that's worth thinking about.